Every morning I wake up at 5:30. It doesn't matter if it's a weekday or a weekend, my internal clock works with the precision of a chronometer. In my 34 years as a music teacher at Maplewood Middle School, I never need an alarm clock, even on the darkest winter mornings. On this April morning, it's already quite light. I lie looking up at the ceiling of my small bedroom and listen to the birds singing outside the window. 5 years ago, Elizabeth would always let out some comment about what kind of bird we were hearing. She distinguished their voices with amazing accuracy: robin, cardinal, blue jay. I never learned to distinguish them, even though I have perfect musical hearing. I get out of bed and mechanically make the bed, smoothing the folds on the side where no one has slept in 5 years. Every movement is perfected to the point of automatism: bathing, shaving, dressing. In the closet hangs a row of nearly identical shirts, mostly light blue and white. I choose a light blue one and a dark blue tie. The kitchen in my small house on the outskirts of Maplewood is clean and functional. Nothing extra: coffee maker, toaster, microwave. The fridge holds the only picture: Elizabeth at the piano, her face lit up with that special smile that only appeared when she played. I make myself some toast and coffee. I eat while looking over the lesson plans for the day, even though I know them practically by heart. Maplewood is a typical small town in Pennsylvania. A few thousand residents, a main street with stores, one high school, 3 churches of different denominations. People here live mostly in families, many working in neighboring, larger Greenville. I moved here 8 years ago with Elizabeth when I got a job as a music teacher. We dreamed of a quiet life away from the hustle and bustle of the big cities, planned to have children. But life took a different course. At exactly 7:30, I leave the house and sit in my old silver Ford. It's a 10-minute drive to school. I always arrive early to get my class ready and spend a half hour at the piano before the school day begins. It is my personal ritual to play for myself, remembering the pieces that Elizabeth loved. Maplewood Middle School is a 2-story brick building built in the 80s. It's nothing remarkable: typical architecture with rectangular windows and concrete columns at the main entrance. My music class is located in the far wing of the first floor, next to the assembly hall. I park in the half-empty teacher's parking lot and head toward the building. The security guard at the entrance, Mr. Jenkins, an older man with a bushy gray mustache, nods affably. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. It's going to be a good day today." I smile slightly and nod back. In 8 years on the job, everyone's gotten used to my terse manner. My reputation as a quiet but competent teacher gives me certain advantages. Colleagues rarely drag me into school gossip and politics. The administration doesn't usually interfere with my teaching methods. At least, that was the case until recently. The music classroom greets me with a familiar silence. Chairs arranged in a semicircle for choir practice, cabinets of sheet music along the walls, an old but still good-sounding piano in the corner. I put my briefcase on the table, pull out the sheet music folder, and sit down at the instrument. My fingers touch the keys, and the room fills with the sounds of Chopin. The Nocturne in E-flat major is Elizabeth's favorite piece. She was an accomplished pianist who taught private lessons. When we first moved to Maplewood, she quickly had students and dreamed of opening her own music school someday. I play with my eyes closed, letting the music take me back to the times we were together. It's the only moment of the day when I allow myself to fully immerse myself in the memories. Then, with the first school bell, I am back to being Mr. Mitchell, the reserved and collected music teacher. Morning lessons proceed as usual. The 6th grade is learning the basics of music notation, the 7th is learning simple melodies on block flutes, and the 8th is learning basic music theory. I try to be a patient teacher. I never raise my voice, but I demand discipline and attention. The kids respect me, although they think I'm a bit strange, a grown man who almost never smiles unless it's about music. The real transformation happens to me during choir class. In the afternoon, when the main lessons are over, students of different ages come to the music class to sing in the school choir. There aren't many of them, between 15 and 20 people depending on the day, but they are truly enthusiastic children. Good afternoon to everyone. I stand in front of the choir looking around at my charges. Today, we will continue working on the repertoire for the spring concert. Let's start with a warm-up. I sit down at the piano and start playing scales, and the choir repeats them on syllables. The children's voices gradually merge into a harmonious sound. I listen carefully, sometimes stopping to correct intonation or breathing. Sarah, take your time on the top notes. Michael, more support in the sound. Jennifer, fine, just the kind of warm timbre we need in the middle register. When it comes to music, I feel transformed. My eyes light up, my movements become more alive, my voice takes on an emotional coloring. The children feel this change and respond to me with sincere commitment. After warming up, we start working on pieces for the concert. This year I have chosen several American folk songs, 2 classical choral compositions, and 1 modern ballad. But the centerpiece of the program has to be Schubert's Ave Maria, a piece that Elizabeth once performed brilliantly. Let's start with the Ave Maria, I say, fingering the sheet music. Emma, are you ready with the solo part? Emma Parker, a tall girl with long brown hair from 11th grade, nods. She has a clear, strong soprano voice that reminds me of Elizabeth's. Yes, Mr. Mitchell. I've been practicing at home, as you advised. Good, good. We'll start with the chorus intro, then your solo, and then the chorus again. Concentrate on your breathing and clarity of tone. I begin to play the intro, and the class fills with the sounds of one of the most beautiful melodies ever written. The children sing with focus, trying to justify my confidence. When it's Emma's turn, she takes a deep breath and sings. Her voice, clear and soulful, fills the classroom space. I nod slightly, approving. The girl has done a good job. Her performance still lacks the depth and emotional maturity that Elizabeth had, but technically she is flawless. Emma is getting more confident with each rehearsal, and I know she will be fully prepared for the concert. After 2 hours of intense work, the class comes to an end. The children gather their things as they discuss the upcoming concert. Some approach me with questions or just to share their thoughts about the music. Mr. Mitchell, Lisa, a little freckled girl in 5th grade, approaches me. My mom said she's coming to the concert with our whole family. She loves it so much when we sing. I smile softly. That's wonderful, Lisa. We have to do everything we can to make your mom proud. Is it true that your wife once sang the Hail Mary? Jason, a serious boy in 10th grade, asks. I freeze for a moment. The kids know I'm a widower, but I rarely talk about Elizabeth. Yes, I finally answer. She was a wonderful singer and pianist. Would she have been proud of our choir? Jason continues. I look at the teenager with a long stare. Yes, Jason, I think she would be very pleased with all of you. When the last student leaves the classroom, I'm alone. I slowly gather my notes, turn off the lights, and close the door. In the hallway, I run into Martha Jenkins, an English teacher who has been at the school for many years. James, I was walking by and heard you practicing. It sounds amazing. I'm sure the concert will be great. Thank you, Martha. The kids are really trying. You're doing important work, she says seriously, especially now, when everyone is so focused on tests and grades. Music gives kids something that no standardized test can. I nod. I appreciate the support of my colleagues, especially lately when the new principal, Mr. Coleman, has started talking about cutting the budget for optional subjects. I hope the new administration realizes that, I reply. Martha looks at me sympathetically. We all hope so, James, but you know how it is. Anyway, don't let this budget talk cloud your work. What you're doing with these kids is priceless. I thank her and head for the exit. Already in the car, I allow myself a moment to reflect on Martha's words. Rumors of a possible reduction in the choir program have been circulating around the school since the new director arrived 3 months ago. Richard Coleman, a former financial consultant who decided to go into education, has a reputation as a tough administrator focused on results and cost efficiency. In our first and only face-to-face meeting, Coleman bluntly asked me what practical benefits come from choir classes that don't prepare students for standardized tests or competitions that raise the school's profile. "Music teaches children to listen and hear," I replied at the time. "It develops discipline, patience, teamwork. It gives them the opportunity to express emotions they often can't put into words. And sometimes, Mr. Coleman, music just makes life a little better." Coleman listened to me with a polite smile, but I could see the cold calculation in his eyes. We've hardly spoken to each other since then, but I can feel the pressure building. I spend the evening as usual, cooking a simple dinner, reviewing a few music theory tests, working on arrangements for the choir. Before I go to bed, as always, I walk over to the small table by the window where Elizabeth's picture stands in a simple wooden frame. "Emma sang your favorite aria almost perfectly today," I say quietly, looking at my wife's smiling face. "I think you would have loved it. The concert is in 2 weeks. I hope it goes well." I've never been a religious person, but these evening conversations with Elizabeth give me a sense of continuity, a connection to that happy time we had together. I know some might consider it unhealthy, but for me, it's a way to keep the memory of her alive. As I go to bed, I think about the upcoming concert. School choir is more than just a job to me. It's a way to pass on my love of music to the next generation, a way to keep that part of myself that died with Elizabeth alive. And I'm willing to fight to keep this little island of beauty and harmony alive in a world where everything is measured by numbers and performance. As I prepare for the spring concert with my choir in his office, Richard Coleman, our new principal, is studying the school's financial reports. He has only been in office for 3 months, but already has a clear idea of what needs to change. The 42-year-old former financial consultant with a degree in educational administration believes that schools should run like efficient businesses, with clear performance measures and rational allocation of resources. I imagine him rubbing the bridge of his nose and looking at the numbers again. School budgets are tight, and the demands for performance are increasing every year. Something has to be cut, and in his mind the choice is obvious: optional programs that don't directly affect scores on standardized tests. My choir is among the first candidates for cuts. Coleman opens the music program expense folder. My salary, instrument maintenance, sheet music purchases, costume rentals for performances. All of these expenses seem unreasonable to him, especially since our choir doesn't even participate in competitions that could bring the school prizes and prestige. The principal's musings are interrupted by a knock on the door. Susan Morgan, the vice principal, who has been with the school for 15 years, enters the office. "Richard, do you have a moment?" she asks, holding some papers in her hands. "Of course, Susan. What do you got?" "I've been going over your budget-cutting proposals." She sits down across from him. "And I have some concerns about the plan for the music program." Coleman leans back in his chair. "What kind of concerns?" "I think you underestimate the importance of the choral program to our school," Susan begins. "James Mitchell has done a tremendous job. A lot of kids come to school because of it, especially those who don't excel in academics or sports." "I understand your position, Susan," Coleman replies with a polite smile. "But we have to be realistic. We have a limited budget. What's more important? New math and science textbooks or costumes for the choir that performs twice a year in front of parents?" "It's not just about performances," Susan argues. "Studies show that music education improves cognitive ability, helps children do better in other subjects." "Research also shows," Coleman interrupts her, That direct investment in quality instructional materials and supplemental instruction in core subjects yields more measurable results. We're not eliminating music as a subject, Susan. We're only talking about the choir's extracurricular program, which requires additional funding. Susan sighs. She's worked with several principals in her career and knows when the battle is lost before it even begins. Have you even talked to James? He might be able to suggest ways to cut costs while keeping the program intact. Coleman nods. We've had that discussion. Mr. Mitchell passionately defends his program, but unfortunately hasn't offered realistic ways to make it more cost-effective or more focused on measurable results. That's not entirely true. The one time we met, I offered some cost-cutting ideas, but refused to turn the choir into a rewards factory, as I called it. Coleman realized then that we were looking at education from diametrically opposed positions. So, has the decision been made yet? Susan asks. I'm still considering the options, Coleman replies evasively. But yes, it's likely that the choir program will be significantly reduced or suspended next school year. What about the spring concert? Of course it will be held, Coleman smiles. I'm not the villain you seem to think I am, Susan. Let them have their last concert. After Susan leaves, Coleman goes over the budget documents one more time. He doesn't consider himself an opponent of the arts. It's just that in his value system, practicality trumps aesthetic pleasure. Schools should prepare children for successful careers in the real world, not indulge some teachers' sentimental notions of beauty and harmony. Unaware of this conversation, I spend the days before the spring concert in intense rehearsals. I organize extra lessons with the choir, honing every note, every nuance in the performance. The children feel my tension and do their best. Emma, let's go over your solo again, I say as I sit down at the piano. Remember to breathe before the high notes. Emma nods and stands in front of the choir. Her solo in Ave Maria is getting more and more confident with each rehearsal. I begin to play and the girl sings along. Her clear voice fills the music room. The other choristers listen with admiration. Beautiful, I say when she finishes. You've captured exactly the right feeling for this piece. Now let's do it again with the chorus. During one of these rehearsals, the classroom door opens quietly, and Principal Coleman enters. He stands against the back wall watching us work. I notice him, but continue rehearsing without giving him any indication. The choir performs the Hail Mary, and when the last Amen sounds, there is complete silence in the classroom for a moment. Coleman coughs, drawing attention. Impressive, Mr. Mitchell, he says with a slight smile. Can I talk to you for a moment? I nod to the students, letting them know they can take a break and walk over to the principal. What can I do for you, Mr. Coleman? I just wanted to make sure everything is ready for the concert on Friday, the principal says. I can see that preparations are well underway. Yes, we'll be ready, I reply succinctly. That's great. I will definitely come. I want to personally evaluate the results of your work. In these words, I hear more than just interest in the upcoming event. It sounds like an evaluation, like a judgment. I nod discreetly. We look forward to seeing you, Mr. Coleman. The principal takes another look around the classroom with the music stands, the piano, and the choristers who are talking quietly, waiting for the rehearsal to continue. Good luck with your preparation, he says, and walks out. As the door closes behind him, I feel my shoulders tense. I take a deep breath and turn back to the choir. Let's continue. Let's do the Hail Mary again from the beginning. The night before the concert, I stay in class longer than usual, going over the sheet music, checking the choir chairs, tuning the piano. Everything has to be perfect. Sitting at the instrument, I quietly play the melody of Ave Maria, letting the music carry my thoughts away. I remember Elizabeth singing this piece at our wedding. Her voice, pure and heartfelt, brought tears to the eyes of even the staunchest of guests. They'll hear it again tomorrow, I say softly, as if speaking to her. Emma will sing it well. Not as good as you, of course, but good. There's a knock at the door interrupting my musings. Martha Jenkins stands on the doorstep. "James, are you still here? It's almost 7 o'clock at night." "Just making sure everything's ready for tomorrow," I replied. "I'm sure the concert will be wonderful," Martha says as she enters the classroom. "The children are so inspired. My niece Lisa is all about the choir." I smile weakly. "They've been working hard." Martha is silent, then says, "There's a rumor that Coleman is planning to cut the choir program next year. Is that true?" I shrug. "He hasn't discussed it with me directly, but I wouldn't be surprised. Mr. Coleman has a very clear idea of what's important in education and what isn't." "That's not fair," Martha said indignantly. "Your program means so much to the children." "Life is rarely fair, Martha," I reply quietly. "But for now, we have tomorrow's concert. Let's focus on that." The morning of the day of the concert is bright and sunny. I arrive at the school earlier than usual to check out the auditorium. Chairs are set up in rows for the audience, and there are seats for the choir on the stage. Technicians are checking the lights and sound. In the afternoon, during the last rehearsal, I gather the choir in a circle. "Today is a special day," I say, as I look at each of my students. "You have done a great job, and I am proud of you. Remember that the most important thing in music is not the perfect notes, but the feelings you put into your performance. Sing with your heart and your music will resonate in the hearts of your listeners." Children look at me with admiration. For many of them, I am not just a teacher, but a mentor, a person who showed them the beauty of music and taught them to express themselves through it. In the evening, the Maplewood School auditorium is full. Parents, teachers, students. It seems the whole town has come to hear the choir perform. In the front row sits the school administration principal Coleman, his deputies, members of the board of trustees. I peek out from backstage. The choir is ready, the kids in white shirts and dark pants or skirts looking solemn and a little excited. Emma, in a simple white dress for her solo, nervously rubs a strand of hair. "It's going to be okay," I tell her quietly. "Just sing like you did in rehearsal." The lights in the auditorium go out, leaving only the stage illuminated. I walk out to the audience, bow briefly to applause, and introduce the evening's program. Then I take my place at the piano, the choir lines up on the stage, and the concert begins. The first few pieces go well. The choir sounds coherent, clear, emotional. I can feel the tension slowly letting go. The audience warmly accepts each number, rewarding the performers with applause. And now comes the moment of climax, Ave Maria. I announce the piece and pause. "This is a special song for me," I say quietly, but in the complete silence of the hall my voice is clearly audible. It reminds me of the man who taught me to see beauty in simple things and to find solace in music even in the darkest of times. I sit down at the piano, take a deep breath, and begin to play. The chorus enters softly, creating a harmonious backdrop for the solo part. When it comes time for Emma's solo, the girl steps forward and sings. Her voice, clear and soulful, seems to fill every corner of the hall. I play, completely immersed in the music. In that moment, I feel Elizabeth's presence nearby, as if she is standing behind my shoulder, guiding my hands on the keys. The last notes dissolve into the air, and for a moment there is absolute silence in the hall. And then the applause erupts. People rise from their seats, some wiping away tears. Even Principal Coleman, who had sat stone-faced throughout the concert, seems moved. The concert concludes with a few more pieces, but nothing can compare to the emotional impact of the Hail Mary. As the last song is belted out, the hall erupts in applause. The choir and I take a bow several times, accepting congratulations. After the concert, many people gather in the teachers' lounge, teachers, parents, school board members. Everyone congratulates us on our successful performance. "That was amazing, Mr. Mitchell," Lisa's mom says enthusiastically. "I never thought a school choir could sound like that." "James, you outdid yourself," Martha smiles, shaking my hand. "Especially the Hail Mary. I still get goosebumps. The room is noisy, everyone is talking at the same time, discussing the concert." I accept the congratulations with a polite smile, but inwardly I am still in that emotional state that engulfed me during the performance of Elizabeth's favorite song. Suddenly, the chatter fades. Principal Coleman appears in the doorway of the teacher's lounge with a folder in his hands. He looks around the room, lingers on me, and then strides toward me. "Mr. Mitchell," he says in a formal tone, "may I speak with you?" "Of course," I answer, feeling my back muscles tense. Coleman doesn't pull me aside. He simply holds out a document from a folder to me. "I'm sorry, but I have to hand you a notice that your contract will not be renewed for the next school year," he says in a flat voice. "Due to budget cuts, the choir program will be closed." There is dead silence in the room. All eyes are on the director and me. I slowly pick up the document without reading it. "You're firing him after a concert like that?" Martha exclaims, the first to break the silence. It's unacceptable." "It's not personal, Mrs. Jenkins," Coleman replies calmly. "It's a financial decision made by the school board after a thorough budget analysis." "But the children," Lisa's mother begins, but falters, unable to find the words. "The children will continue to receive basic music education as part of the standard program," Coleman says. "Unfortunately, the additional choir program requires expenses we can't afford." Susan Morgan, standing in the corner of the room, shakes her head. "Richard, we can discuss this later. Now is not a good time." "I thought it was right to inform Mr. Mitchell as soon as possible so that he could start looking for other employment opportunities," Coleman replies. "I assure you that this decision was not made lightly." I remain silent the whole time, holding the notice in my hands. I try to keep my face impassive, though I can feel my eyes darkening. "I understand," I finally say in a calm voice. "Thank you for notifying me." I fold the document neatly and place it in the folder of notes I keep under my arm. Then I turn to my co-workers and parents. "I thank everyone for supporting the choir and for coming today. It was a wonderful performance, and I am proud of each and every one of our students." With those words, I calmly gather my things, nod to those present, and head for the exit. No one tries to stop me. In the silence that ensues, I hear the door close. I walk down the empty school hallways, my footsteps echoing off the walls. I walk out to the parking lot, get in my car, and put my hands on the steering wheel. For a few minutes, I just sit there, staring blankly in front of me. Then I start the car and drive out of the school parking lot. Instead of driving home, I head toward the town cemetery. It's closed to the public at this time, but the guard knows me and silently opens the gate. Elizabeth's grave is simple, a modest stone with her name, dates of life, and the words, "beloved wife and musician." I kneel before the headstone. "Did you hear today?" I ask quietly. "They sang your song so well, and for the first time in a long time I allow myself to cry. It's been a week since I was fired." I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee and look at the job openings in the local newspaper. There are virtually no offers for a music teacher in a small town like Maplewood. The nearest art school is in Greenville, 40 minutes away, but they don't need new teachers there. I run my hand over my face, feeling the stubble I haven't bothered to shave in the last few days. The house is quiet, just the ticking of the wall clock, counting down the time that has suddenly become endless and empty. The phone rings, breaking the silence. I look at the screen and it's Martha Jenkins. "Good morning, Martha," I answered, trying to keep my voice normal. "James, how are you?" I could hear the genuine concern in her voice. "We're all worried about you." I'm fine, I lie. I'm looking for a new job. Robert and I and the other teachers wrote a petition to the school board, Martha says. A lot of parents have signed too. We think Coleman's decision is wrong and should be reconsidered. I sigh. I appreciate the support of my colleagues, but I don't believe the petition will change anything. Thank you, Martha, but I think the decision has already been made. We don't give up that easily, she says firmly. In the meantime, have you found anything yet? Not yet, but I'll manage, don't worry. After the conversation, I turn back to the paper. On the last page, my eye catches a small ad. The Melody Music Store needs a sales assistant with a knowledge of music. Apply to Frank Donnelly. I know the store, a small space on Main Street that sells sheet music, musical instruments, and accessories. Frank is an elderly Italian man who has had the store for about 30 years. I used to go in there sometimes to get sheet music for the choir. I look at my watch. It's about 11 in the morning. I decide I have nothing to lose by going in and talking to Frank. I shave quickly, change into a clean shirt and pants, and leave the house. The day is clear and warm. Main Street, the main street of the town, is filled with people. Moms with their kids, retirees, teenagers coming out of school for lunch. I walk with my head down, trying to avoid meeting people I know. I'm not ready to answer questions about my dismissal or accept condolences. The Melody Sheet Music Store sits between a bakery and a clothing store. The window is decorated with sheet music and pictures of musical instruments. Above the door hangs an old-fashioned bell that tinkles when I enter. Inside, the store is larger than it appears from the outside. Along the walls are racks of sheet music grouped by instrument and genre. In the center are racks of CDs and vinyl records. In the corner are several guitars, an electric piano, and various percussion instruments. Behind the counter is Frank Donnelly, a short, full man of about 65 with a gray beard and lively brown eyes. He is helping a young woman choose sheet music for her flute. These collections are great for a beginner, he says, showing her several books. And when you get the hang of it, you can try some of these. The woman thanks him, buys 2 compilations, and walks out. Frank turns to me and smiles broadly. Mr. Mitchell, good to see you. What can I do for you? Hello, Mr. Donnelly, I reply. I saw your ad for the salesman position. Frank looks at me carefully. Yes, I need an assistant. My back isn't what it used to be, and the doctor advises me to work less. But I thought you were teaching school. Not anymore, I answer briefly. The choir program was shut down. Frank shakes his head. I'm sorry to hear that. My granddaughter went to your choir a couple years ago, before the family moved to Pittsburgh. She still remembers your lessons. I nod, not knowing what to say. Frank gives me an appraising look. Well, Mr. Mitchell, James, please. James, and I'm Frank. He extends his hand. Let's sit down and talk about work. We settle down at a small table in the back of the store, where Frank usually drinks coffee and fills out paperwork. It's not a difficult job, Frank begins. Customer service, advising on sheet music and instrument selection, keeping the store in order, sometimes helping with orders and inventory. The schedule is flexible, but mostly 10 to 6, 6 days a week. The store is closed on Sunday. Sounds good, I say. It's not as good as a school teacher's salary, Frank continues. But it's enough to live on, and maybe a percentage of sales if things go well. I nod. Money isn't my main concern right now. I have savings and the house is fully paid for. I need something to do that doesn't involve sitting in an empty house all day, immersed in memories. When can I start? I ask. Frank smiles. How about tomorrow? Come to the opening, 10 o'clock, and I'll show you around. We shake hands and I feel slightly relieved. At least now I have a job, a reason to get up in the morning and go somewhere. One more thing, Frank says as I'm about to leave. I heard that St. Joseph's is looking for a director for the Sunday school choir. Maybe you'd be interested. It's not a paid position, purely volunteer, but thank you for the information, I interrupt him. I'll think about it. I leave the store with a double feeling. On the one hand, this new job isn't what I've been preparing for all my life. On the other, it's better than nothing. And as for the Sunday school choir, I'm not a particularly religious person, but the thought of being able to work with children again, to teach them music, makes my heart beat a little faster. On my way home, I pass St. Joseph's Church, a small white building with stained glass windows and a modest bell tower. I stop to look at the church, then, on a sudden impulse, climb the steps and go inside. The church is quiet and cool. Sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows creates colored patterns on the floor and pews. I haven't been here since Elizabeth's funeral. "What can I do for you?" There's a voice. I turn around and see the priest, Father Michael, a gray-haired man in his 50s with kind eyes and a calm smile. "Yeah, I heard you were looking for a director for the Sunday school choir," I say. "Oh yes," Father Michael nods. "Mrs. Green, who led the choir for many years, moved to her daughter in Philadelphia. The kids really miss the classes. Are you interested in this position?" "Perhaps," I answer cautiously. "I'm a former music teacher from Maplewood High School." "Mr. Mitchell," exclaims the priest, "of course I know you. Many of our students went to your high school choir. They always spoke enthusiastically about your classes." I nod in embarrassment. "I heard about what happened at the school," Father Michael continues in a quieter voice. "It's a great loss to the children, but perhaps it was Providence that brought you here today." He gestures for me to come with him. "Let me show you where Sunday school classes and choir rehearsals are held." We go through a side door into the annex of the church where the Sunday school classrooms are located. There are several spacious rooms with children's tables and chairs, bookshelves and drawing boards. "Classes are held on Sundays from 10 to 12, explains Father Michael. "First, there is a general lesson, then the children go into groups. The choir usually rehearses for the last 45 minutes. Once a month they perform during the service, and at Christmas and Easter they prepare special programs. He takes me to the largest room, where there is a piano and chairs arranged in a semicircle. We have about 15 children in the choir," the priest continues. "They range in age from 6 to 14. Some of them already have experience in singing, others are just beginning. But all of them are very fond of music. I walk over to the piano and run my hand over the keys. The instrument is old but well-maintained and well-tuned. Like I said, this is a volunteer position," says Father Michael. "We can't offer payment, but money is not the point," I interrupt him. "Yeah, I'd like to try." The priest's face brightens. "That's wonderful. The children will be so excited. Can you start this Sunday?" I nod. I suddenly feel like I've done something right for the first time in a long time. "Yes, I'll be there." "That's fine. I'll let my parents know." Father Michael smiles. "You know, Mr. Mitchell, sometimes what seems like the end of the road is actually the beginning of a new journey." I nod politely, though I'm not sure I'm ready for philosophical conversations about fate and destiny. I just want to go back to doing what I love, teaching music to children. The next morning at 10 sharp I arrive at the Melody store. Frank is already there, getting the store ready to open. "Oh, there you are," he greets me. "Ready for your first day?" "Ready," I reply, feeling a little nervous. The last time I started a new job was 8 years ago when I came to Maplewood High School. Frank gives me a little tour of the store, explaining where everything is located, how the cash register works, how orders are placed. Then he shows me the computerized inventory system. "Don't worry, it's not rocket science," he encourages me, noticing my tense face. "You'll get the hang of it in a couple days." By 11 o'clock, the first customers start coming into the store. I watch as Frank talks to them, warm, friendly, clearly knowledgeable. He remembers regular customers by name, asks about their successes, gives advice on choosing instruments and sheet music. After lunch, Frank leaves me alone behind the counter saying he has to go to a supplier. Can you handle it? I'll be back in about 2 hours. Sure, I reply, though I'm not so sure inside. The first hour passes quietly. Only a couple of people come into the store, and they know exactly what they want to buy. But then a young woman enters with her daughter, about 8 years old. Hello, she says to me. We want to pick out Sarah's first flute. Could you help us? I feel more confident. It's a subject I know a lot about. Sure, I walk over to the wind instrument stand. For beginners, I'd recommend the closed valve flute. It's easier to learn. I show several models, explain their features, let the girl hold the instruments to choose the most comfortable size and weight. How long have you been playing the flute? Asks the woman. I am not a flutist, I answer, but I taught music in school and am familiar with most of the instruments. Oh, you're a teacher, she rejoices. Maybe you know someone who could give Sarah lessons. We recently moved to Maplewood and haven't found a teacher yet, I wonder. I know a few musicians in town, but I'm not sure which ones give private lessons. I can find out and let you know, I say. Leave your phone number. By the time Frank returns, I've managed to serve a few more customers and even place an order for sheet music that's out of stock. How's it going? Frank asks me as I enter the store. Not bad, I reply. I sold a flute and some sheet music. That's great. Frank claps me on the shoulder. I told you you could do it. By the end of the day, I feel a little tired but also satisfied with the work I've done. It's not like teaching school, but there's something satisfying about talking to customers and helping them pick out an instrument or sheet music. See you tomorrow, Frank says to me as we close the store. And by the way, I've told a few regular customers that we have a former high school music teacher working for us. A lot of people are interested in private lessons. You can leave your contacts if you'd like. I thank him and go home, thinking about Frank's offer. Private lessons could be an additional source of income, but more importantly, an opportunity to continue teaching. At home, for the first time in a long time, I cook a proper dinner instead of sandwiches or reheated convenience foods. Then I sit down at the piano, an old instrument that once belonged to Elizabeth. I haven't played it since the day I got fired. My fingers touch the keys and the room fills with the sounds of Chopin. I play, feeling the tension of the last few weeks slowly let go of me. I found a new job, Liz, I say quietly, turning to the picture of my wife. And I'll be leading the Sunday school choir. Not what I had planned, but it's better than nothing. On Sunday, I wake up early. I choose my clothes carefully. There's not much to choose from. I settle on a light blue shirt and dark blue pants. St. Joseph's Church is filled with people, many of them families. I sit in the last row, feeling a little out of place. After the service, Father Michael introduces me to the congregation as the new Sunday school choir director. Mr. Mitchell is an experienced teacher and musician, says the priest. We are very pleased that he has agreed to take over the leadership of our children's choir. The parents nod at me, and some come over to say hello. Among them, I recognize several moms and dads from my former choir students. Mr. Mitchell. Lisa, the little freckled girl from my high school choir, runs up to me. Are you going to be our new teacher? That's so great. Behind her is her mother, Carol Jenkins, Martha's niece. We're so happy to have you here, she says. Lisa was very upset when she learned that the school choir was closing. It's good to see you too, I reply, feeling an unexpected warmth at the sight of familiar faces. The Sunday school class is filled with children of all ages. I count about 15 people, among them several of my former students from school. Good morning, everyone, I begin as the children are seated. My name is Mr. Mitchell, and I'll be leading your choir. How many of you have sung before? Almost everyone raises their hands. That's great. Who knows what the most important thing about choir singing is? The children look at each other. Finally, A little boy about 6 years old shyly raises his hand. Singing beautifully? That's very important, I agree. But it's even more important to listen to each other and sing together as one. A choir is not just a group of people singing at the same time. It's a single organism where each voice is important and complements the others. I walk over to the piano. Let's start with a simple chant so I can hear your voices. The children turn out to be very responsive and diligent. Some of them already have experience singing in the choir. Others are just starting out, but they all have a genuine love of music. I am gradually drawn into the process, forgetting my worries and doubts. I am in my element, teaching the children to sing, to listen, to feel the music. Next week we will start learning songs for the service, I say at the end of the class. In the meantime, I would like you to think about what kind of music you like and would like to perform. As the children leave, Father Michael comes up to me. "How was your first lesson?" He asks me with a smile. "Good," I reply. "The kids have potential. Some of them are already singing well." "I noticed that several children from your school choir came today too," the priest says. "They are very attached to you." I nod, feeling slightly embarrassed. "They're good kids." "You know, Mr. Mitchell," Father Michael says, "sometimes the most precious things in life come to us through loss and trial. Perhaps the closing of the school choir has opened new doors for you. I'm not sure I'm ready to accept such a philosophy, but I nod politely. Perhaps you are right. On Monday, back at the Melody store, I am surprised to find myself feeling, if not happy, at least relaxed. The two new jobs, sheet music store clerk and Sunday school choir director, are not at all what I had planned for my life. But they give me purpose, structure, and the opportunity to continue making music and working with children. "How was your first choir lesson?" Frank asks me when I get to work. "Not bad," I reply. "The kids are talented and interested." "Glad to hear it," Frank nods. "You know, I think you should put up an ad for private music lessons here in the store. We have a lot of customers looking for a good teacher." I'm thinking about it. The idea of giving private lessons seems more and more appealing. "I guess you're right," I say. "I'll prepare an ad." Frank smiles. "Good. Now, will you help me with my new sheet music order? A big shipment for stringed instruments has come in, and I need to get everything sorted and organized. In the evening, when I get home, I sit down at my desk and write an ad for private piano and vocal lessons. Then I walk over to Elizabeth's picture. "I think I've found my path, Liz," I say quietly. "Not the one we planned together, but it's a start. It's been a month since I started leading the choir at St. Joseph's Sunday School. Every Sunday I arrive a half hour before class starts to get the class ready and lay out the sheet music. And every Sunday I get a surprise. More and more kids show up for rehearsal. That morning, as I enter the classroom, I see a familiar face, Emma Parker, the same girl who sang the solo part in Ave Maria at the last school concert, sitting at the piano and quietly playing a melody. "Emma?" I say in surprise. "What are you doing here?" The girl turns around and smiles embarrassedly. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I was wondering if I could join the choir. I know I'm older than the other kids, but—" "Of course you can," I interrupted her. "I'd love to see you in the choir. But don't you go to church across town?" Emma lowers her eyes. "My parents and I used to go there, but when I found out you were leading the choir here, my mom didn't mind me going over. She knows how much singing lessons mean to me. I'm touched." I remember working with Emma on her solo, helping her discover her voice and overcoming her fear of public speaking. "Well, welcome to the St. Joseph's Choir," I say, smiling. "Your voice will be a great addition to our group." Emma brightens. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. One more thing. Some of the kids in the school choir want to join too. They asked me if they could come next Sunday." I raise my eyebrows in surprise. "Really? Which ones?" "Michael, Jason, Sarah, And a few others, Emma replies. We all really miss the choir. Of course they can come, I say. Choir is open to everyone. The class is full by the time class starts. Besides Emma, 3 other teenagers from my former high school choir have come. They're not members of this church, but they've come to sing under my direction. I see some familiar faces among the younger kids, too. Lisa Jenkins and a few of her classmates. Good morning, everyone, I begin, glancing around the class. It's good to see so many new faces. Today we will continue working on the repertoire for Sunday's service. But first, I'd like to audition our new members to determine which parts they will sing. Rehearsal is going on with an extraordinary amount of excitement. Emma and the other older students who have experience singing in the choir are helping the younger ones, showing them how to take their breath, how to listen to each other. I am pleased to see that my school choir has always had the same atmosphere of mutual help and support. By the end of the class, we have learned 2 songs for the next Sunday service. As the children begin to leave, I stop Emma and the other older students. I have an idea, I say. How would you feel about putting together a small concert? Not just a performance at the service, but a full program of 6 or 7 pieces. We could hold it at a church or perhaps a community center. Teenagers are coming to life. That would be great, Mr. Mitchell, Sarah exclaims. Just like old times. Almost, I smile. Only the repertoire would be a little different. But the principle is the same. We work as one organism, listening to each other, striving for harmony. Can we invite friends and parents? Jason asks. Of course. The concert will be open to everyone, I said. I'll talk to Father Michael to arrange a date and place. When the last student leaves, I head toward the priest's office. Father Michael greets me with a smile. I noticed you had a lot of new kids today, he says. Looks like your choir is becoming popular. Yes, a few of my former students from high school came, I reply. And I was wondering if we could organize a small concert in a month, not during the service, but a separate event. Of course, Father Michael nods. The church is always open to such initiatives. We could organize a concert on Saturday night, for example, and if I may suggest, maybe make it a charity event. Right now, we're raising money to repair the roof of the church school. I'm thinking about it. I like the idea of a charity concert. It gives extra meaning to the event. That's a great idea, I agree. We could sell tickets at a nominal price and all the money would go toward the renovations. That's great, Father Michael said brightly. I'll help with the organizing. You two concentrate on choir preparations. The following Sunday, the class is barely able to accommodate all the people who want to sing in the choir. A few more teenagers from the former high school choir join my students, as well as new kids from the parish. In all, we have about 25 people, far more than we usually have in a Sunday school choir. We're going to need a bigger room to rehearse in, says Father Michael, looking into the classroom. Why don't we move into the church hall? So the choir moves into a large room next to the main hall of the church, where parish meetings and celebrations are usually held. There is an old but good-sounding piano and plenty of room for all the members. News of the upcoming concert quickly spreads around Maplewood. Parents of students tell friends and neighbors, and announcements are posted at church and in public places in town. Frank Donnelly put up a large poster in the window of the Melody Sheet Music store and offered to sell tickets right in the store. It will be convenient for people to buy tickets when they come in to buy sheet music or instruments, he explains to me. And it will draw attention to the concert. Preparations are well underway. I've put together a program that includes a variety of pieces, from traditional spirituals to contemporary compositions. Emma is to sing a solo again, this time in Amazing Grace. Rehearsals are not only on Sundays after the service, but also on Wednesday evenings. I have arranged with Father Michael for extra time. The kids come right after school, often bringing friends who also want to join the choir. On one such Wednesday, as rehearsal is winding down, a woman enters the hall with a notebook and camera. I recognize Deborah Crane, a reporter from the local newspaper, the Maplewood Gazette. "Mr. Mitchell," she addresses me, "I've heard about your choir and your upcoming concert. Can I take some pictures and ask a couple questions for the article?" I'm surprised at the media interest, but agree. Deborah takes a few pictures of the choir during a chant, then asks permission to hear one of the songs. The children perform "Bridge Over Troubled Water" in a choral arrangement, and I notice the journalist taking notes, sometimes nodding in time with the music. After rehearsal, she asks me for an interview. "I heard that you used to lead a school choir that was closed due to budget cuts," she begins. "And now you have created a new choir, which is becoming more and more popular. Can you tell me how that happened?" I shrug awkwardly. I'm just doing what I do best, teaching kids to sing. After the school choir closed, Father Michael suggested that I lead the Sunday school choir. I accepted, and gradually more and more students began to join us. "Including some from your former school choir?" "Yes, some of them sing here now." "And how do you explain this interest?" "These days, kids usually prefer video games and social media over choral singing." I wonder. I think that in every human being, especially in children, there is a natural attraction to harmony, to beauty, to co-creation. Choir gives them the opportunity to express emotions that are hard to put into words. When you sing in a choir, you are part of something bigger than yourself. It's a special feeling, and it's appealing. Deborah records my words, then asks, "What do you think about the school's decision to close the choir program?" I tense up. I don't want to criticize the school or Principal Coleman publicly. I understand that schools face financial constraints and have to make difficult decisions, I answer diplomatically. I am grateful for the opportunity to continue working with children in a new format. One last question. What does music mean to you? I close my eyes for a moment, remembering Elizabeth at the piano, her smile as she played. Music is a way to stay connected to what is truly important, I say quietly. With beauty, with emotions, with memories. It's the language the soul speaks. An article in the Maplewood Gazette comes out 3 days later under the headline, "Musical Revival: How One Teacher Changed City Life." In it, Deborah Crane tells my story and the story of the choir, gives feedback from parents and children, and describes the atmosphere at rehearsals. The article is illustrated with photos of the choir and a portrait of me at the piano. In these times when everything is measured by numbers and efficiency, James Mitchell reminds us of the value of music and the arts in community life, the journalist writes. His choir has become not just a place where children learn to sing, but a true cultural center that unites different generations and social groups. In a small town where entertainment is scarce, the opportunity to participate in the creation of beauty becomes a real gift for children and their parents. The article ends with an announcement of an upcoming benefit concert and an appeal to support the initiative. The morning the paper came out, I get to work at Melody's and find Frank spreading a few copies on the counter. "You're a celebrity now," he winks at me. "Great article, by the way. It's good publicity for our store, too. Deborah mentioned that you work here." I smile embarrassedly. I didn't expect her to write so emotional. "She just wrote the truth," Frank says seriously. "What you're doing with these kids is really important, especially now that they're cutting all art-related programs in school." Throughout the day, people come into the store who, after reading the article, want to buy concert tickets. Some specifically seek me out to talk about music, the possibility of private lessons for their children, and how important it is to keep cultural traditions alive in a small town. "I never thought my daughter would be interested in classical music," says one mom. "But ever since she started attending your choir, she is always listening to these pieces at home, trying to sing along. It's amazing. By the evening, all the concert tickets sold at the store are sold out, Frank calls for Michael to break the news and ask for additional tickets. The church has also noticed the impact of the article. Father Michael tells me that the parish office is constantly getting calls from people inquiring about the concert and the choir. Some even ask if we need adult singers, the priest says with a smile. We might consider starting an adult choir in addition to the children's choir. What do you say to that, I wonder? The idea of leading another choir is tempting, but I'm not sure I have the time and energy. I already work full-time at a store, give private music lessons, and lead a children's choir. Let's do this concert first, I said, and then we can think about expanding. A week before the concert, rehearsals become daily. The children come after school, sometimes with their parents who wait for them in the church, listening to the choir practice each song. Many of them have never attended St. Joseph's before, but are now becoming frequent visitors. On the day of the concert, the church is decorated with flowers and candles. Father Michael has ordered additional rows of chairs to be set up, but even that is not enough. By the time the event begins, all the seats are taken and some audience members have to stand against the walls. I, dressed in a strict dark suit, am more nervous than before any school concert. I gather the choir in the church hall for final instructions. Remember that the most important thing is not the perfect notes, but the feelings you put into your singing, I say, looking at the excited faces of the children. You are all perfectly prepared. Just enjoy the music and share that joy with the audience. Emma, dressed in a simple white dress for her solo, approaches me. "We won't let you down, Mr. Mitchell," she says on behalf of the entire choir. The concert begins with the simple but beautiful tune, "Simple Gifts," which the choir sings a cappella. The clear children's voices fill the church space, creating an atmosphere of harmony and peace. As I stand in front of the choir and conduct, I feel the tension let go. The program continues with a variety of pieces ranging from traditional spirituals to contemporary compositions. Emma performs her solo in Amazing Grace with such soulfulness that many audience members have tears in their eyes. Little Lisa Jenkins also gets a little solo in one of the songs and handles it perfectly despite her excitement. When the last song, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah in a choral arrangement, is played, the audience erupts in applause. The audience stands up, greeting the choir and me, its director. I bow with the children, feeling a strange combination of pride, joy, and a slight sadness. I can't help but think of Elizabeth, who will never hear this choir. After the concert, a small reception is organized in the church hall. Parents, teachers, parishioners, everyone congratulates me and the young singers on their success. Father Michael announces that the concert raised enough money not only to repair the roof, but also to upgrade the Sunday school music equipment. "It's amazing that you were able to create such a choir in just a few months," says Deborah Crane, who is also attending the concert and taking notes for a new article. "You have truly changed the musical life of our town." I smile modestly. I'm just giving kids a chance to express themselves through music. Everything else is their merit. And yet, the journalist insists, not every teacher can inspire students in such a way. There's something special about your approach. I wonder. Maybe it's that I really believe in the power of music, I say quietly. It's gotten me through some of the most difficult times in my life. And if I can share that with my kids, show them that music can be a comfort, a joy, a way to express themselves, that means something. I spot a familiar face in the corner of the hall. Susan Morgan, the vice principal of Maplewood School, stands surrounded by several teachers. She notices my gaze and walks over to me. "It was a wonderful concert, James," she says sincerely. "These kids, they've grown so much under your guidance, especially Emma. I've never heard her sing with such confidence and feeling." "Thank you, Susan," I reply. "How's school going?" She wrinkles her nose a little. "Not as good as it could be." I nod. I feel mixed emotions. regret that the kids have been deprived of a full music program at school, and pride that many of them have found their way to my new choir. But it seems they now have an alternative, Susan continues, looking around the room full of happy children and parents. You've created something special here, James, something that goes beyond the usual school choir. This is a true community. I look at my students chatting, laughing, sharing their concert experiences. Among them are children of different ages, from different families, with different levels of musical training. But all of them are united by their love for music and the joy of creating together. Yes, I say quietly, I think you're right. It really is more than just a choir. 6 months after my dismissal from Maplewood High School, the Sunday School Choir's benefit concert was a huge success and became the topic of conversation in our small town for weeks. The local newspaper published another article, this time with pictures from the concert and audience feedback. Maplewood's Musical Miracle was the title of Deborah Crane's piece. Meanwhile, things were not going so well at Maplewood High School. After the choir program closed and I was fired, the atmosphere at the school changed. Many students, especially those who used to sing in the choir, lost interest in school activities. One fall day, I was working in the store when Susan Morgan, the assistant principal, came to see me. She told me that Principal Coleman had received notice of additional cuts in funding for cultural programs, and they were having trouble preparing for the Christmas concert. Yes, Susan sighed, and we were wondering, maybe you'd be willing to cooperate. Your Sunday school choir could perform with our students at the Christmas concert. It would be a temporary arrangement just for one event. I looked at her for a long moment. The offer was unexpected. Part of me wanted to refuse right away. The memories of being fired were still painful. But another part of me was thinking about the children, about the opportunity to perform in the school auditorium again, about the tradition of Christmas concerts which I had always valued. Who took the initiative? I finally asked. Was it you or Principal Coleman? Susan hesitated. I suggested the idea, but Richard agreed. He understands that the school made a mistake by cutting the choir program. Of course, we can't bring it back in full due to budget constraints, but at least for special occasions like the Christmas concert. Susan, I interrupted her, I appreciate your honesty, and I understand how you feel about the children and their education, but I have to think about it. It's not just my decision. I have to discuss it with the church leadership and the children themselves. Of course, Susan nodded. I understand. When can you give me an answer? In a couple of days, I answered. I need time to think it over. When Susan left, I remained seated at the table, deep in thought. The school's offer was tempting in a way, a chance to show what my new choir had accomplished, a chance to return to school, if only for a while. But something inside me resisted. That evening I visited Father Michael to discuss the school's offer. The priest listened to me carefully, then said, "The decision must be yours, James. The church will not object to such cooperation if you think it is right. But remember that your first duty now is to the Sunday school choir. One more thing. At the same time as the school Christmas concert, a regional religious song choir competition is scheduled for Greenville. I was thinking of asking you to participate with our choir." I was surprised. "Competition? Do you think our choir is ready for that?" "Absolutely," Father Michael replied confidently. "After the concert you gave, I have no doubts about their abilities, and it would be a great experience for the kids to perform in front of a larger audience, to hear other choirs, to get a professional evaluation." It got me thinking. When I led a school choir, I had deliberately avoided competitions, preferring to focus on developing musical skills and a love of singing rather than the competitive aspect. But now the situation was different. My students had grown up. Many of them had really good voices and a serious attitude toward music. "I'll talk to the kids," I finally said. "I'll find out what they think about these two opportunities." The next Sunday, after the usual rehearsal, I gathered the choir together for a serious talk. We have two suggestions for the Christmas period, I said, looking at the interested faces of the children. The first is to perform with the school choir at the traditional Christmas concert at Maplewood High School. The second is to participate in the regional religious song choir competition in Greenville. Unfortunately, these events take place at the same time, so we'll have to choose. The kids looked at each other. Emma, as the informal choir leader, was the first to speak up. "Mr. Mitchell, I think we should enter the contest. It's a new experience for all of us. We've performed at school many times before, but never in a competition." "But wouldn't it be nice to perform at school again?" Jason objected. "To show everyone what we've accomplished." "That's why I think the pageant is better," Emma said. "There will be an independent jury, other choirs. It's a real test of our abilities." "What do you think, Mr. Mitchell?" little Lisa asked, looking at me with wide eyes. I hesitated. I didn't want to influence the children's decision with my opinion. "I think both options have their advantages," I said carefully. "A school concert is a chance to perform in front of a familiar audience, in a familiar place. A competition is a new experience, a chance to hear other choirs, to get a professional evaluation. But the decision should be a joint one." After a long discussion, it was decided to hold a vote. Most of the children, especially the older ones, were in favor of participating in the contest. I was inwardly happy about this decision. It coincided with my own preference, although I didn't say it out loud. "Good," I said. "So we're going to the contest. That means we're going to have to do some serious work on the program. The competition will be strong, so let's get started right away." The next day I called Susan to tell her of my decision. "I'm sorry, but we won't be able to participate in the school Christmas concert," I said. "We are already scheduled to participate in the regional choir competition in Greenville on the same date." "I understand," Susan replied with a note of disappointment in her voice. "It's unfortunate, but I respect your decision. Good luck with the competition." "Thank you, Susan." After this conversation, I felt strangely relieved. The decision had been made, and now I could concentrate fully on preparing for the competition. The following weeks were filled with intense rehearsals. I composed a program of 3 pieces: a traditional spiritual, "Go Down Moses," a modern composition, "The Prayer," and Schubert's classic "Ave Maria," with Emma's solo part. The choir practiced not only on Sundays, but also twice a week in the evenings. The children came straight from school, often tired but full of enthusiasm. On one such evening, as the rehearsal was winding down, Principal Coleman entered the church hall unexpectedly. He stood at the door, listening to the choir sing "Ave Maria," and only when the last notes fell silent did he cough, attracting attention. "I apologize for the intrusion," he said, coming toward me. "Miss Morgan tells me you're rehearsing here. May I speak to you for a moment?" I was surprised to see him, but nodded. "Sure. Kids, that's it for today. I'll see you on Friday." When the students left, Coleman and I were alone in the church hall. "I heard that you withdrew from the school concert because of the competition," the principal began. "I understand your decision, but I'd like to suggest an alternative. Perhaps we could reschedule the school concert, or, if that's not possible, maybe at least part of your choir could perform with us." I looked at Coleman carefully. The principal looked tired and a little nervous, not at all like the day he'd handed me my termination notice. "Mr. Coleman," I said calmly, "I understand that the school is in a difficult position, but my answer remains the same. The children and I have decided to enter the competition. It's an important experience for them, and I can't split the choir or change our plans now that we've already begun preparations." Coleman sighed. "I understand, but I have to admit that I made a mistake in shutting down the choir program. Only now am I beginning to realize how important it was to the school." I was surprised by this admission, but my face remained impassive. "I'm sorry, but I can't go back. Now I have a new job and new commitments. to the store, to the church, to this choir. We're preparing for the pageant, and I won't let these kids down." Coleman nodded, accepting the waiver. "I respect your decision, Mr. Mitchell. Good luck with the pageant." After the principal left, I was alone in the empty church hall. I sat down at the piano and quietly played the melody of Ave Maria. A strange sense of fulfillment filled me. For the first time since being fired, I felt that I was in complete control of my life, that I had made the right choice. Preparations for the contest continued with increasing intensity. I was a demanding leader, but the children responded to me with sincere dedication. They realized that this was their first real appearance on the big stage, and they wanted to show themselves at their best. A week before the competition, I organized a dress rehearsal in the church, inviting parents and parishioners. The choir performed the entire competition program, and the response was enthusiastic. Emma made a particularly strong impression with her solo in Ave Maria, her voice having grown in strength and nuance over the past few months. "They are ready," said Father Michael after the rehearsal. "I don't know what the jury will think of them, but to me, they're winners." I nodded in agreement. I was proud of my students, their progress, their dedication to music. Regardless of the results of the competition, they had already achieved the main thing. They had become a real, united group that could convey deep emotions through music and touch the hearts of listeners. At the Melody Store, Frank supported me, understanding my busyness with the choir. "Don't worry about the store," he said. "I'll manage by myself on your rehearsal days. The main thing is to prepare well for the competition." I was grateful for this encouragement. Over the past months, I had found in Frank not just an employer but a friend, someone who understood my love of music and shared my values. The talk of the town was also about the upcoming contest. Deborah Crane wrote another article in the Maplewood Gazette, this time about the choir's preparations for the regional competition. "Our small town will be represented at the prestigious competition thanks to the efforts of James Mitchell and his young singers," she wrote. Regardless of the outcome, the mere fact of participating in such an event is already an accomplishment for a choir that has been in existence for less than a year. On the eve of leaving for the competition, I went to the cemetery to visit Elizabeth's grave. I often talked to her, telling her about my life, my work, and the choir. It has become a kind of ritual for me, a way to stay connected to the woman I continue to love. "We're going to the pageant tomorrow, Liz," I said quietly, looking at the simple stone with her name on it. "The kids are nervous, but they're ready. Emma will be singing your favorite Ave Maria. I wish you could hear her. She has a really beautiful voice, almost like yours." I was quiet for a moment, then continued. "You know, the school wanted me back. They offered me a temporary position to organize the Christmas concert. Even Coleman came to ask me personally, but I turned it down. Not out of pride or resentment, although I admit it was nice to be able to say no to the man who fired me. It's just that I belong here now with this choir, with these kids. I've found a new path, Liz. And while it's different from what we planned together, I hope you would approve." The evening was quiet and clear. I sat by the grave for a while longer, listening to the birds singing and the rustling of the leaves. Then I got up, ran my hand over the cool stone with my wife's name on it, and went home to pack for the road and prepare for the most important performance of my new choir.